Our labor at Kentucky Truck generates more revenue each minute than thousands of our members make in a year. The revenue generated by our members at Kentucky Truck is so high that if the plant were its own standalone business, it would rank in the Fortune 500. We're not messing around.
The UAW addressing decades of what it calls poor treatment and pay. Its President Shawn Fain back on the record just hours ago, breaking down just how much revenue Ford alone brings in each year. The UAW telling the company to do right by its employees who generated the company's record profits and told to reinvest in them. Tens of thousands remain on the picket line across the country today, but we did not see it expand any further. We do want to check in with the newest group of workers on strike this week here in Louisville. Isaiah Kim Martinez is at the Kentucky Truck plant and talking about those workers.
Hey, Brooke, I'm actually currently we were just at the Kentucky Truck plant. Now we're at the Kentucky Expo Center, and these are KTP workers. Check this line out. It is wrapped around the center. We're at the Freedom Hall entrance right now. Again, these are KTP employees all signing up for strike pay. We've talked a lot about this. They're signing up for direct deposit. This will take Friday, so the rest of today, likely Saturday and Sunday as well. They're going in alphabetical order to get everyone signed up to go ahead and get that $500 per week. It'll take time though. We do want to walk you in. So they're going around the building and then they're coming out through this entrance here. Again, this is Freedom Hall. The lighting is going to change a little bit, but Emma Gefter, our photojournalist, is going to show you this is kind of another congregating spot here. Just tons of folks inside. They're signing up with some of their personal information down the hall there. It's just a very active process. Again, these folks are going to be getting strike pay, but this is the sign-up process to make that happen. We are told by Todd Dunn, though, he's the local UAW chapter president, that it could take at least a week for that strike pay to kick in. We also know some of these workers are going to get prorated pay for the work they did at the plant before the strike started. So what does this all mean? Next Friday, they could be getting a partial paycheck, but after that, they might not be getting much until that strike pay kicks in. So this will be likely a challenge for a lot of families that rely so heavily on that salary. Here's Todd Dunn talking about the impact today.
You know, we've got workers that have 2 jobs, right, just to make ends meet. That's why we're here negotiating a fair agreement, an equitable agreement. It's about our future. So inspired, really. I'm inspired by our membership right now.
And you heard from Todd Dunn right there. Again, we're back outside. Take another look at this line. Emma's going to walk up for you. It's just stretching all across the Expo Center. Brooke, we're going to have a lot more here, a lot more about Louisville Assembly Plant. We have talked a lot about potential layoffs there today. We'll talk about that, of course, in our early evening shows tonight. For now, we're live at the Expo Center. I'm Isaiah Kim Martinez. Brooke, we'll throw it back to you.
Isaiah, thank you so much for that. And with production grinding to a halt, Ford executives say KTP's strike will have serious consequences on Ford's workforce, suppliers, and dealers. Ford said more than 16,000 have joined the picket line, but because its plants are all interconnected, the strike at KTP is impacting at least 13 other plants nationwide, including 4,600 non-striking workers.
So far, the work stoppage at Michigan Assembly Plant and Chicago Assembly Plant have forced more than 13,000 layoffs so far at nearly 90 supplier sites. The fragile supply chain will be nudged further toward collapse with this strike at Kentucky Truck Plant.
The company also said it was shocked by the decision of the union to call that strike, saying it thought it was seeing improvements in negotiations. New signs that Israel may be on the verge of escalating its retaliatory strikes against Hamas with a ground offensive in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli officials say they've contacted 120 families of loved ones who've been kidnapped, adding this is not the end of the list. ABC's Inez Delicatera continues our coverage from Tel Aviv.
Israeli forces now gathering at the border with Gaza, a sign they may be preparing for a possible ground offensive. Israel is telling nearly 1 million Palestinians to leave Gaza City and parts of the north, though Hamas is telling residents to stay where they are.
Israel never and ever will not shoot civilians in purpose. We are asking all the civilians in Gaza City to go south of Gaza. The camouflage of the terrorist is the civil population.
But the UN warns moving so many people could have devastating humanitarian consequences. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have already been forced from their homes. Hospitals in Gaza overwhelmed, on the brink of collapse. Those trapped by the war, living without water, food, medicine, and electricity.
The situation is just unbelievable, catastrophic, and devastating for us.
Israel's military says it hit 750 military targets overnight, including underground Hamas terror tunnels, military compounds, and other Hamas targets. The unrelenting airstrikes in retaliation for the brutal attack by Hamas militants. At least 1,300 men, women, and children killed, others taken hostage.
Encountering ISIS, I felt as if we were staring evil in the eye. In what we've seen from Hamas, it takes that evil to another level.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, extending condolences for the Palestinian civilian victims, and discussed U.S. efforts to prevent the conflict from widening.
And there are growing fears this war could spread, with Iran a sponsor of Hamas, saying overnight that opening other fronts could be possible. Inez Delaquatera, ABC News, Tel Aviv, Israel. Law enforcement agencies across the country are on alert now after Hamas called for a global day of rage. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office pulling personnel from specialized units to increase visibility. And in New York, the NYPD is telling its officers to prepare for 12-hour shifts. The war in the Middle East has prompted a strong reaction across the nation, especially on college campuses. Over at Harvard, the school's Palestinian Solidarity Committee is facing backlash after releasing a statement signed by more than 30 student groups, saying they hold the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all unfolding violence.
Hamas may be an unjust organization. They are created through the apartheid regime that Israel and Western supporters put in place.
And that sound from here locally. We're seeing this happen right in Louisville. Students at U of L marching Thursday calling for a free Palestine. Students argued while Hamas is an unjust organization, so is the treatment of Palestinians. We spoke with that organizer you just saw, who remained anonymous for fear of retribution. He says the march does not support Hamas killing civilians. And we also do know that those we spoke to said the conditions in Palestine are terrifying. And even before the Hamas attack, they said access to resources like water were unreliable. Now, in response to the protests, the state legislature, the Kentucky Israel Caucus, released a statement saying while all Americans have the right to assemble and exercise free speech, a public university supported by Kentucky taxpayer funds cannot condone a rally openly celebrating such acts of genocide that could potentially stoke violence against its own students. U of L President Dr. Kim Schatzel responded, saying the university could not censure that rally and that restrictions on such speech, no matter how the offensive content it is, would constitute a violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution that protects free speech. She said, we went on to condemn that attack on Israel by Hamas, calling it a tragic loss of life.